So there's this sick mod I found on Nexus Mods that I'm going to tell you all about today. See, Monster Hunter Wilds has a really cool version of the Switch Axe, and I really like it, except there's some things I don't think is fully realized on it either. A lot of the motion values aren't that great on the weapon. That's one big thing that I don't really like about it, because what it means is all you want to do is spam full release slash. Say it with me, guys. Full release slash. Yeah, you amp your sword mode and you just want to keep doing full release slash. I'm gonna keep repeating it because that's how it feels to play it, you full release slash. This is the best moveset I think Switch Axe has had. Yet, here we are spamming full release slash, a brand new move that's very cool, very awesome, and does a lot of damage. And what does that mod have to do with full release slash? Well, it changes some of the moveset a little bit, and one of those things you can toggle is to turn off full release slash from neutral. So currently, you can spam full release slash at any point that you want if your sword mode is amped. You can do it from neutral, you can do it after you attack things, you can do it after a elemental discharge finisher, you can do it whenever you want. And because the damage is so high, and some of the motion values are a bit too low compared to how full release slash is, you really just want to keep using it over and over again as much as possible for any of your punish windows. And really any topple you get can pretty much guarantee lead to at least 2 full release slashes as long as your weapon is amped. But the mod we're looking at today is called Switch Axe Moveset Copium. It's really sick. Notably, this mod was updated for Title Update 1, which changed a little bit of it, so it lets you customize some of your options a little bit more. For instance, if you still want to spam full release slash, you can, because you can toggle that to stay the way it is. But it changes your offset attack as well. The modded moveset has some motion value tweaks, so that the sword mode is a little bit stronger, but it also has a feature that lets you turn on file damage on axe mode if you have your axe mode charged up, which I actually prefer using a different mod for that goes based off of your sword amp, but we're not talking about that. I have the page open right now, and I'm going to tell you about some of the notable changes it has here. So for the moveset changes, in your sword mode, your double slash and your heavenward flurry combos will go into a morph double slash, which is very good. It gives you a lot more damage when you want to get those moments of opportunity. In axe mode, when you do an overhead slash or your forward overhead slash, which is that big dash forward attack, you'll get in your morphing rising double slash in the sword mode, which is a big damage opportunity as well. In sword mode, your rising slash combos into morph slash, which it also notes is a little bit funky just because the way of modding is right now. Here's a big one. Your normal attacks, like if you were just to keep hitting Y or triangle in the controller, have a very, very big increase in movement speed, which I'm going to show it on screen now. That's a very significant change. When doing the parry in sword mode, you don't go nearly as far away. The knockback is pretty much non-existent, you're still going to be right where the monster is. Situationally good, situationally bad, sometimes you want vanilla, sometimes this, I don't think it's that big of a deal. If you enable this tweak, then full release slash can only be used after an element discharge finisher. So like I said, how in vanilla you can full release slash from neutral or at any point that you want, in this one you can only do it after a specific attack, and that's this here. You can only do it after this. Otherwise, you're just going to get the one little slash. I think it's called bridled slash. And bridled slash also doesn't consume gauge now in this mod, making it a little more useful because there's not really any reason to use it pretty much ever in the normal game. Another really interesting thing, if you hit the offset attack in your axe mode and you do your morph attack, so you're going to your sword mode, you'll do a full release slash then as well. This not only encourages offsetting the monster more, but it also just gives you a very strong option and a little more access to using that full release slash. Before this update, it would amp your weapon. It no longer does that though. Element discharge and zero sum discharge got their number of hits increased, making them a lot more useful. While doing that, they also changed some of the VFX and the sound effects when using those moves to make them a little bit better. I like it a lot more. There's also an optional file you can download that further increases motion values on the sword mode, I'm gonna put up some damage numbers that I did very quick tests on, trying to do like the same combo. Don't remember if I actually did it 1-to-1, but doing the same button inputs, you'll see that there's a little bit different in how the combo looks between base mode and the mod. But you'll see the damage is increased with the mod because of the motion value tweaks. You know, after actually watching this footage back in editing, I'm realizing I did the combos a little differently, and I believe in the vanilla version, I actually did a more extended version of the combo, while the mod I did a little bit differently. But the results still came out the same after looking at the specifics here. Only specific moves are tweaked with the motion values in the sword mode. It is specifically mimicking Rise's motion values, Monster Hunter Rise that is, and giving it the buffed motion values of whatever attacks were in that game, and maintaining any buffed motion values in the Wilds version. Therefore, it's still a general increase in damage. Just wanted to point that out though. And when you use the optional motion value tweaks, you get a significant bonus to your damage. So why is it that I like this mod so much? Well, I love Switch Axe. I think even the base version of this weapon in Wilds is so much fun to use. I just think that there's so much potential that the Switch Axe could have that Capcom hasn't really let us have yet. For instance, the Axe mode feels almost entirely redundant. It's only there to amp your sword mode further and keep your gauge up. I think that's kind of boring. I want it to have a little more use. This mod gives it more use, especially if you're letting it have file damage, so it doesn't feel like you just lose all of your DPS when you're in your axe mode. Changing your combo routes to the Monster Hunter Rise version, which is what the changed morph attacks are, also makes rapid morph skill significantly more useful, while also maintaining some pretty good DPS. It increases your damage across the board because you're getting the more important moves when it comes to dealing more damage, but it also just looks so much cooler. It's not to say there's no downsides. These moves all have more commitment to them, meaning that you can't just immediately roll out or whatever. You gotta kind of plan your combos a little more, but I like that. I like having the buffed motion values as well, because it makes my moves feel stronger. It's kind of needed if you can't just spam full release slash though. I know there's some other mods on Nexus mods as well. I haven't messed with them. They haven't caught my attention nearly as much as this one, because this mod actually changes more of the move set and does a little more with it that I think is interesting, but there are other ones if you're interested in looking for them. But this mod basically turned Switch Axe into what I would want Switch Axe to be. I like to use more of the moveset of the Switch Axe. I think it's very cool, it's flashy, it's unique. You know, you're morphing between your two different modes, utilizing both modes to squeeze out a little more damage in your punish windows. It's just so much more interesting to me. You know, one of my biggest things I would think about, even when the beta came out for this game, was why doesn't the Switch Axe feel like it's what I want it to be? And it kind of came down to, I feel like a lot of the moveset is redundant. You never want to use an element to finish or discharge because there's no need. You just full release slash instead. Even zero sum discharge feels like it's just not the kind of damage you would want out of it for how much commitment it does become, because that got nerfed a lot more than it was in World. And when I compare the Switch Axe to other weapons I enjoy, such as Sword and Shield, it just feels like the damage isn't quite there unless I'm specifically spamming full release slash. There have been a lot of changes from the beta to full release, obviously, but I even remember fighting Arkveld in the beta. The Switch Axe was so difficult trying to kill it because you just needed to keep going for full release slash, but your build wasn't really good enough to keep the monster stunned. And I switched to Greatsword, and after doing dozens of try with Switch Axe, I did it first try on the Greatsword. Again, this isn't to say I don't like Switch Axe in Monster Hunter Wilds, it's just to say I think it could be so much more, and this mod kind of demonstrates what it could be. You know, using your morph attacks a little more, and using more variety of your moveset, limiting full release slash to being more of like a combo finisher rather than just your end-all be-all option makes it feel so much more satisfying to pull off in a big punish window. I never played Monster Hunter Rise all that much, but from what I did play and the kind of gameplay I would watch of it, Switch Axe looked a lot more enjoyable in that game than it did in World, just because there was a lot of differences in its moveset. It didn't feel like you had to stay only in sword mode. You know, Rise, you could use your file damage in your axe mode. That wasn't just exclusive to sword mode, which makes it weird why they would get rid of that in Wilds, when it's something that really encourages you to continue switching between your movesets. So if you have a PC and you're a big Switch Axe fan, give it a shot. And maybe if the Switch Axe hasn't really clicked for you because you feel like its moveset's a little weak, try this out. Like I said, there's an optional file as well you can get that increases the motion values even more when it comes to your sword mode. It consumes more of your gauge, but it also makes it easier to build up that gauge while in axe mode. That does kind of also make it where you don't really want to use the axe mode very much because your sword mode is going to just do crazy amounts of damage. But still, it's really fun to mess around with. I like to switch between the two for the hell of it. Honestly, I think the optional motion values are a bit overtuned perhaps, but if you just want to use the sword mode, it's very fun. And even if you're just using the base version of this mod, I actually tend to find it to potentially be worse than the vanilla Switch Axe, because you can't just spam your best move and you have to plan so much more accordingly to each situation and use your brain a little more as to how to squeak out more of that DPS and continue doing things, and makes you play a little bit differently. And to that, I think it's really sick. You should check this mod out. Anyway, I'm gonna get on out of here. I just wanted to make a quick video talking about something I think is really cool. I actually recorded all of this before Title Update 1, and then it came out and the mod changed a little bit, so I re-recorded it. Now this time in 4K, so it looks better now. Like, comment, and all that if you enjoy. Bye.